This DVD has been produced following a project of work undertaken by ACTAN. It's been funded by the European Social Fund Innovation, Transnationality and Mainstreaming Programme through the Ageless Work initiative led by Skills for Care in the southwest of England. The project looked at the following areas. Any barriers to learning in relation to older learners and ways to overcome them. Identifying any specific types of learning which may create greater barriers. The impact that the new qualifications, such as the Health and Social Care Diploma, may have on older workers, and integrating the new qualifications and age-friendly policies into workforce planning. This DVD shows you the 10 top tips that came out of the project.
Demonstrating return on investment and cost effectiveness of training. Research conducted by ACTAN suggests that employers consider the actual or potential lack of return on investment as the greatest organisational barrier to providing learning and development. This was closely followed, however, by the cost of training itself from the employer's perspective. How can training providers demonstrate such a return on investment?
Ensuring return on investment for employers is really important, especially during the current financial climate. We want to know that we get something back for the investment that we make into training our workforce. We found that by working with our training providers and ensuring that our commissioning specifications identify where we want the impact of training to be, and working with them to develop those training programs that are specific for our workforce really helps for us to identify that return back on our investment. The qualifications credit framework has been invaluable in supporting us to identify that return on our investment. It provides a flexibility in terms of career pathways for our workforce. It's tailored to transforming social care services and allows us to move staff from one service to another across the organisation, so from residential care, domiciliary services, reablement services. QCF can tailor those qualifications to those individuals and supports us to have much more measured outcomes in what we're delivering.
Business models which facilitate learning.
Okay, I'm just going to explain our learning and development programme for the organisation. So what I did first was mapped all of the learning outcomes to the different training and development that we provide. That meant that we would put together an induction workbook for staff. This is the workbook that we've put together for our own staff with activities in the back that people complete. And once they complete that, that provides evidence towards their QCF diploma. Okay. For their first 12 weeks, that will be completed. They will then go on to do other units that are associated with the QCF diploma, because we've been able to split up those units. So things like infection control, eating and drinking, support for sleep. We will then be providing e-learning as mandatory refresher training for staff. That will build up to link in with their QCF diploma at level 2, and then people will be able to move on to do different career pathways, so award in dementia, the mentor award, champion status.
Okay. Forming strong partnerships between the employer and training provider.
I think it's a benefit both to ourselves as training providers and also to the employer to be able to kind of take time to understand the nature of what the service they're providing, and to try and adapt our materials and adapt the courses that we're running to suit their needs as closely as we can. One example of where I've been doing that with a local provider and a good customer of ours has been with a local medium-sized learning difficulty service, where we've taken a close look at their induction that they provide and also at the regular training that they've been providing for their staff. And we've ensured that it matches very closely the common induction standards, And we've also been looking to explore the link with the new QCF qualifications, and particularly with the Health and Social Care Diploma. That's been of a direct benefit both to the assessor and to the candidate, in that it makes it far clearer where all these materials link up together. And it kind of reinforces the long-term business relationship that we have with our customer as well, which is bound to be a benefit for all of us.
In recent research conducted by ACTAN, a strong partnership between employer and training provider was considered a key factor in reducing barriers to learning. This also enables the training provider to increase their understanding of the employer, the service provided, and the organisational culture.
To ensure the training provider market is in place to deliver the training that we want to purchase from them, it's important to work with them very closely to ensure that they're developing programmes that are going to meet our needs for the future. Within Devon, we have done that by developing training provider forums where we engage with the training provider market, working with them to develop those programmes that we will want to purchase from them in the future, ensuring that programmes that they are developing are accredited programmes that support the qualifications and development of our workforce, both within our in-house workforce and that workforce within the private, voluntary and independent sector.
Promoting a positive attitude to learning.
Now, Jan, we've known each other a long time and worked together for a long time, but I was really surprised to learn that you'd made a decision to take up your training comparatively late in life. And I just really wondered what underlay that and what encouraged you to do that.
I left school at 14 and started in the nursing care as an auxiliary at the age of 30, and did several courses to try and improve standards of care. And when I got to 49, I worked in a place in Bristol, which was for learning disabilities. And my manager there said, why am I working as an auxiliary when actually I should do my training?
So it's really encouragement from
Yes.
a manager, a mentor that kind of really set you on your path.
Yeah.
And you ended up going to UWE at
the
age of 49.
Yeah.
So how did that seem?
It was very daunting in the first year, and I felt like the youngsters kept coming to me, asking me for help, and I needed help from them actually.
So what kept you going? What encouraged you to keep going?
I think the support of the family and the support of friends who I'd worked with before saying carry on and do it. And once the first year was over, the second year sort of sailed by, and the third, and it was easy then.
And of course you've been able to put that experience that you've had into practice in working with Michael, who's achieved his MBQ level 2, and again he's one of our more mature learners.
Well, as you know, Michael is very shy. He's a very good carer, but to actually write things down he found it very difficult. And the first few sessions that we had were pretty tough, to be honest, because he kept saying, I'm going to pack it in. And things like saying, look at my writing, and so I'd show him mine and say, well, actually there's no difference, so keep going.
Yeah.
And eventually he did everything and passed.
So
and now he's proud to walk around with his badge.
So what do you think made the difference? Was it spending time with him and encouragement?
I think spending time with him and listening to what they've got to say, because if you know what their fears are, then you can help them through.
It was such a nice thing to be able to give him his final certificate. He was so proud of his achievement, and I think the encouragement really made a difference. And he's 58 years old and he never thought he'd have a qualification.
No, and he's actually working as a senior now, which is nice.
So he's got promotion as a result
Yes,
as well.
yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
We're helping QCF learners to adapt to a new style of learning by using the workbooks. In the workbooks that we've put together, we have knowledge in the front of them to help them learn and engage in the topic. And in the back, we have activities which they can complete during the session to gain evidence towards their diploma.
Adaptable learning to incorporate a range of learning styles and learning needs.
At the start of any learning and development programme, it's really important that the learner undertakes an initial assessment, and this should include literacy and numeracy skills, and this will help to pitch the programme at the right level. The other important thing is to look at blended learning, so not use one type of learning, so this incorporates different learning styles for the individual. So that could be a mixture of e-learning and face-to-face. Also it could be group discussions, peer learning, so that they can share good practice.
Peter, I just thought I'd run through with you the results from the Actern e-learning pilot project. If you remember, we evaluated the project with some of the learners, and some really surprising results actually. The first question I asked people is, what age are you? And we have 52% of people saying that they were aged between 40 and 49. We had 7% of people over 50, and the rest were under 40. So that was quite a good way of looking at the impact that e-learning might have on older workers or people over 50. The second part of the research looked at how confident those people were using computers generally, because I thought that would have an impact on how they took to e-learning at work. And again, the results surprised me somewhat. That is
surprising, actually, yes.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. 29% of people were actually very confident, and a significant proportion of people said that they were very confident, with very few people actually saying that they were slightly nervous.
So around about 70% of people were actually confident in using computers. And if you bear in mind that your proportion of the workforce is over 50 as well, you know, that bucks the trend, really, doesn't it? It does.
It was quite significant. We then asked people before working at St Monica Trust in their current role whether they'd ever used a computer for e-learning before. Again, the results really surprised me. You know, it was more than half the people surveyed actually said that they had used computers for e-learning.
So really a stereotype about older learners bites the dust, really.
Yes, yeah. And then finally, we asked people how they rated the courses that they actually took. And again, just over half of the people said it was a better experience than classroom learning. And these were courses like health and safety, food safety, and the sorts of things that you can quite easily do with e-learning. And then we had just over a quarter of people saying that the learning was just about the same as classroom learning, with a much smaller percentage, less than a quarter of people, saying that it was actually a worse experience than classroom learning.
I think taken all together, it is a really surprising set of results, and it kind of flies in the face of a stereotype that exists of older workers, because we've got people who are confident at using computers, we've got a high proportion of people in the workforce who are over 40, but we're also finding people have not only been using e-learning, but they've also been enjoying it and finding it as a better experience than conventional classroom learning.
Yeah. And this was a variety of staff, from housekeeping staff to care staff. So yeah, very interesting results.
Reducing potential barriers in the learning environment, provision of learning materials.
An initial assessment at the start of a learning and development programme is really important for a learner, because it enables them to look at any concerns that they might have, any support that's required, and look at the whole learning programme so that they feel supported throughout the full programme, looking at any barriers that there might be for their work.
During a recent workshop, and where an initial assessment hadn't picked up any additional learning needs, we realised that a candidate was struggling in the session. So what we actually did is we actually changed how we were delivering the session and used a flip chart to put bullet points up so that the candidate could actually start to record some of these into her workbook. Okay. Later on, after further discussions with her, we realised that what we could actually do is actually photocopy the work packs onto different coloured paper and use different style fonts to help her with her learning.
Recently, we introduced e-learning into the organisation. This was a new form of learning for our staff, and we wanted to reduce the barriers to this learning. We made sure that we held information sessions, both to inform managers and also to help staff to understand and get used to the system. We had laptops available, and we went through the first module of an e-learning course with each member of staff. This helped them to increase in confidence and ask us any questions that they had about either using a computer or the particular programme that we were using for the e-learning. This proved a really successful way of introducing this new form of learning into the organisation. After the information sessions, we made sure that we had ongoing support from a member of the training team to actually support managers and staff to use the system in the workplace.
Increase opportunities for learning through access to a variety of resources and work tools.
We wanted to make sure that by introducing e-learning into our organisation that we could reach a far wider variety of staff with our training than we have been able to with just classroom-based training. So this has enabled us now to help the weekend staff, those people that work only at weekends, or evening staff, people who work night shifts, and also our bank support workers as well, to be able to access exactly the same training as the rest of our workforce can.
Yeah, the fire training is really good.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from fire training. And all the different things he tells you, all the different fire points that we didn't learn because they've changed, because the building changes all the time. Yeah, and then the fire training. And it was really useful for the different things they tell us. Now, did you find Kosh?
Yeah, no, it was good. Learned lots of different things, and especially, you know, wearing the gloves and what chemicals was for what and how to use it, dilute everything properly. Yeah, and all that. How did you get on with Peter Little in the intermediate, the food hygiene one?
Yeah, no, that was really good as well. We used the cream on the hands and went to the toilet and washed them and put it under the light box, and you could see the bits you'd missed.
Did you miss any?
Yeah, I did. So it was good, you know, good in practice to see how far up to the arms you've got to wash and all the different boards you've got to use for different meats and all that kind of thing. Yeah, you know, you went for a lot of things and all the different temperatures that we had to learn, and obviously it's good for us to know, being that we're in a different part of the kitchen, but just off of, so we know exactly how it's got to be as well.
That's good. And in Fran's Kosh, she uses all these, like, all the different laminated pictures.
Yeah,
of
they're
all
really
the
good as well, yeah. She's got the one of like an airport with all the suitcases on top of each other. That would never happen, but it's to get you more.
With this ladder.
Yeah. And he's got one leg.
Yeah. That is really good.
And you learn more from other people.
Yeah, and then if you're shy, you don't want to answer a question, somebody else does it for you.
Exactly.
Or again.
Older learners may sometimes feel very intimidated at the idea of formal learning and sitting in a classroom. So another way around that is to make the working environment as rich as possible in terms of learning equipment and learning resources. And there's a lot that you can do in the workplace to make things interesting. There can be a notice board where you put items, articles of interest, things which people have found interesting to read. Resources like websites. A lot of people have their own computers at home, so if they know where to look, they know that the websites that are interesting, they can look those things up at home. Sometimes organisations are able to have staff magazines which might highlight various items of interest and keep them in touch with what else is happening in the particular working environment. And there are generally lots of ways that you can encourage people to just absorb learning and new ideas without even realising that they're doing it.
Using examples in training that have relevance for the learner.
One of the advantages of being an in-house moving and handling trainer is that I can adapt my training according to the needs of the workers, because I get to know the kind of working environment that they're in. And we have some dementia care units where a lot of the problems are psychological problems. People are very confused, people are very frightened, and the staff need to handle them considering their nervousness and be very gentle and very calm with them to help them to be moved. Whereas in the nursing homes, often the problems are more to do with people's physical disabilities, the fact that they can't move at all themselves, the fact that they need assistance with absolutely everything. So I have to adjust my training and use equipment which is appropriate for the needs of the workers in that particular place of work. For example, in the dementia care unit, we might well advocate the use of these rotor cushions which help people to get in and out of bed, and handling belts which help the staff to assist people from a chair into a standing position. Whereas in the nursing homes, we often use these single slide sheets which enable the staff to slide people up and down bed and from side to side in the bed. and actually very, very useful. If I find that they haven't got appropriate equipment within their workplace, I can talk to the managers and I can make sure that the managers purchase the equipment that is necessary for those particular type of residents.
The first aid training seems to be going really well at the moment, and I think one of the reasons why it's going really, really well is because we're trying to make it real. We're putting our personal experiences into the training so that people can learn it and have a greater understanding about the topic that we're discussing. For example, I've used situations where I've dealt with choking, serious bleeding and stuff to actually explain to them what people might be faced with and how they might have to respond in a situation. Make it real for them, but obviously not to frighten them, but just to embed the learning, to give them a greater experience, so the chances are they will remember it when they need to.
Inclusivity and valuing learners.
An older worker who starts in a new job may feel very, very nervous because they feel like they don't know anything. And it's part of the role of the trainer to actually show them that they have a lot of transferable skills, a lot of relevant previous experience, and to draw that out of them and help them to make a contribution. Somebody who's worked in a children's nursery, for example, will already be able to say a lot about behaviour management. They've already been doing record keeping. Somebody who's been in a hotel job might be able to give a lot of information about customer care or possibly infection control. And people who've been at home looking after children, again, may feel that they lack confidence, but the trainer can show them that what they've been doing is actually they've been doing time management, they've been teaching their children, they've been negotiating with schools, and all those things will actually help them in their current new job and give them confidence, hopefully.
Promoting knowledge transfer.
Okay, Rachel, I wanted to have a chat with you about a really exciting project that we've been involved in. We are working with a domiciliary care agency who's approached us to work with their care assistants to support them to upskill to offer personal assistant services to service users who want to purchase support when going out socially. So we've developed a programme with people who use services who will deliver the programme alongside us, and the programme will be delivered to care assistants who are looking to upskill to have personal assistant type skills alongside people who use services who will be part of that training programme as well. So it'll aid the transfer of knowledge between both the people providing the service and the people that are purchasing the service.
That's really good. There's lots of opportunities here. What we could do is we could map the outcomes of the programme towards the QCF outcomes, which means that people can work towards a diploma. We can also accredit the programme in its own right, which means then that people in the future can work towards a diploma if they want to save duplicating development programmes.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're trying to teach our staff is how to use the MUST malnutrition screening tool, because it's very important to be aware of people losing weight and to take appropriate action. So we teach this in the classroom. We teach the students how to use the graphs, how to do the measurements that are necessary to get an accurate reading, and that's fine, but the important thing is that they then go back to the workplace as soon as possible and actually use that skill in their units where they're working. So it's important when I teach this, I give them each one of the tools to take away with them. I give them a ruler to take away with them, and then I make sure that there are supervisors within the workplace who can then monitor this new staff member and encourage them to actually carry that out on their next shift. So there's no gap between learning the skill and actually implementing it.
Following a training session, what we do is we get all of our learners to complete an evaluation form. So the evaluation form not only gets me as a trainer to evaluate my practice, it also gives my manager an idea of how the training session went. This also then can be sent to their managers of the learners so they can have a look at the forms and see what they've learnt. And 3 months later, we can come back to these forms and we can actually see, has this learning been embedded into their work practice? What did they get out of this training? What can we do to make this training better?